we are. Hey, good morning and good afternoon and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Hi, how's it going? I'm Jim Harrison and I am an essential oil expert and I do everything. I just do everything with it. And I'm with Jirbie Go. And hi, Jirbie, what's up?
Hey Jim, thank you again for having me. Such a
Well,
pleasure to be here.
this is you and I together for this is we're gonna just do this teamwork. People would like to see somebody else besides me when I'm talking, and you are the perfect person.
Thank you.
That's how we're doing this. Well, cool. All right, so today we're going to talk about aromatherapy education. And do you need to get an education in aromatherapy? It's a question that people ask me. Some
Mhm.
people just like to use essential oils and just, I mean, you can buy these things at a supermarket, right? Isn't the way that
Mhm.
works? So,
That's
if,
true.
so Jerby, if people are buying them at a supermarket, how do they get educated?
Mhm.
Just buying them, right?
So are you asking me?
I'm
Do I
asking you,
answer now?
yeah,
Okay.
what do you think of that? That was just, it wasn't something I'd thought of before, but I'm going, hey, you can buy these things. Why do you need an education? What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so accessible. I think that's the more that people need to be educated. For sure, you can Google everything right now, but then again, Google also has a lot of inaccuracy, and that's the danger of it. Because it's so accessible, people are not really aware of how potent and maybe risky some essential oils can be, depending on how deep you want to go with it. If you're just a casual user, fine, you can stick with your lavender, peppermint, and lemon, sweet orange. Nothing will probably go that bad. But if you want to be more deep into aromatherapy, then I highly suggest for you to get educated.
That makes sense. For anybody that does want to know how to get in touch with Jerby, this is where she's at. Couch Wasabi.
Mhm.
That's a name you had before essential oils, right?
Yeah, very Asian.
Well, kind of Japanese. I mean, do
Yes.
you have wasabi in the Philippines? Just
No, not natively.
no, unless you go have sushi,
Yeah,
and
unless you
and
go
then
to Japanese
then
restos.
you'll find some couch wasabi. Anyway, cool name. So yeah, if you want to get in touch with Jerby, this is where to go. And yeah, I know how to find you, Jerby. All right, so here's where I want to go because that's a good start. That's a good theme. And as a professional aromatherapist, that's generally how we think.
Mhm,
Now, just to give a bit of my background, I'm going to have you do the same thing, Jerby, so people know why you know what you're talking about.
mhm.
Um, I don't know what I'm talking about because I never really took any courses or any kind of certificates. So,
Oh,
um,
come on, Jim.
okay,
Don't say you don't know
I
anything
know
with
a little
yourself.
bit. All right, I do know a little bit. But anyway, how I started, it was very early on, and the organizations, the associations that are now very popular and kind of create guidelines for education weren't around. They were just getting started. My first course was it was how I discovered essential oils was when I had a salon, and I found out about essential oils, and I became obsessed. But it was through Aveda, which is aromatherapy, sort of, But it was cool. I liked it. I liked what was going on there. And then Michael Scholes came through to Boston and did a class, and I remember in the class in the handout he was talking about being on the crest of a wave, that this was just going to be the biggest deal and incredible, and you are on the crest of a wave. And by the end of that class I was going, cool, I'm on the crest of a wave and I like it. I like where this is going. And turns out, 30 years later, I'm still on the crest of a wave. I don't think aromatherapy has quite hit really where it's going to end up. I think it has a long way to go, which is why talking about education is so important. So, there just weren't any certificate programs. And I did get together with Kurt Schnaubelt. I took his course, and I can't remember if that even had a certificate to go with it, probably. But I'm sort of, I people tell me I'm a good educator, but I got to say I'm not a good student. It's like I dive in and I want to learn things, and I don't really think of it as I'm going to get a degree or I'm going to get a certificate or anything. And Kurt's course was amazing, and I took that course, but I took that course with Kurt probably more than a dozen times because when Kurt and I met, um, I met him in San Francisco. Then he came out to Boston, and he was doing a class. And I told him, if you're ever in Boston, let's get together. So we got together, and we didn't bond on the aromatherapy thing. We bonded on music. And so my relationship with Kurt, which is why I'm telling you how that worked, was immediately on a bond and a friendship. But hanging out with somebody with Kurt's brain and talking essential oils, that's like being in the ultimate certification course forever. It's just your
Mm-hmm.
daily. So my background is not in any of certification programs. And then I started teaching. So my first course was to do it in an aesthetic school.
Mm-hmm.
And my next step was another aesthetic school. Then after I co-founded a skincare company, I ended up in Seattle and I ended up teaching at Bastyr, and I created the certificate program there. But in between that, I actually wrote a textbook. So it was made for Milady, who was a textbook publisher for the cosmetology aesthetic industry. So I have no educational background. I have no idea, or at the time had no idea how to even structure a course because, I never went to school. So I didn't have any guidelines to follow. So I always question how I work and how the associations work on what they do. So in the structure of working with essential oils, and I'm going to tell more about how I structured mine, but I really want to hear from your experience the courses that you've taken
Mm-hmm.
and how each one differs and how each of them are the same.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, so hello everyone. I am Jirbie Go. I started as the Philippine representative for the Alliance of International Aromatherapists. I am the incoming president of AIA for next year.
Rock on,
And
Madam President.
thank you. And I've been I guess involved in aromatherapy starting I would say 2018. Um my background is from the corporate world. I used to handle finance and marketing until I let go of all that, and then I became an animal rescuer. And that organically led me to essential oils. And during that time, while I was rescuing animals, I was already very much involved on YouTube. So I'm still a YouTuber. I still do a couple of videos on YouTube. And when I started posting about essential oil content, and this is me at the time when I was still a very casual user of essential oils, much like what you mentioned, like, I just buy
Mhm.
my oils from maybe groceries or specialty stores, and I would make content about it, right? Then people, my followers, or subscribers rather, they, of course, they would start sending me questions about these oils. Of course, for the first few videos,
Mhm.
I find myself Googling everything because everything's on Google as much as it is now, right? But then again, it came to a point that, oh my God, the questions are coming in more and more. I don't want to have to Google all the time. So that's really what led me to um, think about getting formal education. So that was around 2018, I think. 2018. And then at the time, there weren't much options for us. I live in the Philippines, so there weren't options like brands that I can buy,
Mhm.
more so schools. So I did my search for schools that can provide distance learning program, and this led me to then it was called the New York Institute of Aromatic Studies. So I chose that school because they had a physical school in New York, and I like that idea that I'd be able to go to the physical school while I can complete my distance learning course. And so I took that foundations course. I think I graduated a year after. And then during that time, 2018, 2019, I've already been doing classes as well, like
Mhm.
simple workshops, not really like full on aromatherapy certification. So I would have like a batch of students from time to time, teaching them how to do proper blending, like simple aromatherapy DIY products, like maybe, I don't know, a roller blend, a facial oil. It starts with that, right? And then I got more involved with the aromatherapy community. Um, I think I joined AIA. I also joined ICANN. I joined I think it's the
That's
only
out of England, uh,
uh it's
British.
owned by Rhiannon Lewis, so I think it's based
Yes.
from France. Yes. So I joined them I think at around 20, it was during the pandemic, so 2020, I guess 2021. And then I remember I was invited by ICANN to be part of the educational like open forum for one of their botanica conference.
Hmm.
This was way back in 2022, I think, or 2021. Then, during that educational panel, I was with the presence of, I think, Jade Shoots and some other like really known names in aromatherapy. You know, I at that time I really felt like a small fish among all these people because these are like the veterans, much like you, Jim. So, but then
Huh.
again, you know, I was invited for a reason. That's how I
Yeah.
always see opportunity. Like I'm there for a reason. Rian would have picked me if I don't have something to say. So I remember in that educational forum, I told them that the challenges of someone who is from a developing country. Like when I started, I remember saying when I started my formal education, it really felt cumbersome. It was so isolating. You know, aromatherapy is supposed to be a very nice and supportive and happy, but
Uh-huh.
coming from a developing country where you can't nobody else is doing it, I felt like really alone. I can't My friends, like my circle of friends, they don't even understand why I'm studying. My own parents, my mom and dad, my dad even told me, I didn't send you to the best school in the Philippines just to be a masseuse. A mas- like, oh my god.
Oh,
But it's fine, you know. I power through. We trudge forward, and here I am now. So, yes, I feel that your experience, Jim. I think this dialogue that we're having right now is very beneficial because you would provide a generation wherein the education, I think, I would say, landscape is very different from how I experience it.
hmm.
Yeah, and if you ask me now, is education or like getting a formal certification necessary? My answer would be it depends on how deep you want to go. There are so many short courses out there about aromatherapy that are really good. And if you don't really plan on, let's say, I don't know, handling a community or maybe be as involved in the aromatherapy community, or maybe you don't really like plan to have an aromatherapy business. I honestly think that it's not necessary for you to get a certification course, right? But if you are planning to open up your own, let's say, essential oil business, or um, even making your own bath and body products using aromatherapy, then it might be good to consider for you to get some certification courses.
So here's where I'm at with a lot of what's going on.
Mm-hmm,
Because I developed everything on my own. I had to, I'm a self learner anyway. I would
mm-hmm,
probably, even if I started today, if I was, the age that I started a long time ago and started today, I probably would dismiss all of the schools that are out there, and I
mm-hmm,
would I would dive in and still do it the way I did it. I don't, I had opportunities too that I probably wouldn't have today. I mean, I got to hang out with Pierre Francombe, Daniel Penewell, and Kurt Schnaubelt, and these are all the guys before, um, the schools that are here. These are people that they all learned from as well. So anyway, I might do it the same way. Now, where what I'm finding as a challenge when I look at all the qualifications or all the rules that they
mm-hmm.
stick with here's what you have to do to get your level one or whatever they call it, and because that's what it is, right? Level one, two, and three. They
Mm-hmm.
both organizations kind of do the same thing. I don't know if it's
Yes.
what's the IFA, is that right?
That's it, way in UK, I think.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
have you ever looked at their guidelines? Are they similar as well?
I would think so, and a little bit more, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, and a little bit more.
Yeah, I call it educational overkill because I think that essential oils are an experience. All right, so when you took a course, the
Mhm.
first course, was it very academically guided as much as experiential, or was it more experiential and some, you know, book stuff?
Mhm. I think it's a mix of both. And also my learning, my personal learning style, I would tend to absorb like information more if I experience them. And this
Hmm.
is also what I um teach my students. Like whenever you're gonna start like diving in your certification course, make sure you have the oils because it
Yeah,
would really make you appreciate like what's bergamot. Like for a Filipino, we've never heard or like experienced bergamot. We can't really truly understand it unless we take a whiff.
yeah.
So yeah, it's I would say a mix of experience and theoretical.
You know, and when you know, this is the way I find school works anyway. It reminds me of a book, and I can't remember who was the author, but he was a Harvard professor in education, one of the top guys in kind of creating educational programs. What's the right way to do it? Blah 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 blah. And in his book, he said he talked to graduates, PhD graduates, and he finds that people who in that, you know, just that's the extreme PhD, but this probably goes with anyone that goes to a
Hmm.
course. When asked questions, they would revert to their kindergarten knowledge
Hmm.
rather than anything they got from academia. Now, there are some things you get from academia that you can't get when, you know, you're 6 years old. So, yeah, just would, you know, there are limits to what I'm saying here. But what that tells me is that no matter, you know, if I threw so much information at somebody, they're only
Hmm.
going to learn so much.
Hmm. That's true. Hmm.
Yeah, and this is why I think, you know, aromatherapy education is a bit extreme. It gives you a certificate, which they call it certification, but there's really no. It's not really a certification because that would have to be regulated by, you know, whoever regulates whatever certification is. Like at the university, we weren't calling it a certification program because it was a certificate program,
Hmm.
and you know, so all those things just kind of create the illusion that there is some structure to aromatherapy education,
Hmm.
and I like it that they have it out there.
Yeah.
But I just find that it's like, how many hours did you really need to go? Like if you look at the level one,
Hmm.
how much of what you learned did you learn by doing it and could have gone to a book and looked at it later? And how much did you learn because what you were taught?
Hmm. Okay, so actually, when I started, there was only level one and two. So I was part of that batch wherein they transitioned from level one two to level one two three, and it's very interesting because then you'd like, oh my god, I should have been like finished, but now I have to take level three. But then again, you have to understand, and this is my stand still that you don't really have to finish one, two, three. Like take only to the level where you will find the most, I guess, use of your education.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't plan to be a teacher, if you don't, I mean, if you're not a nurse and plan to go clinical, there's no reason for you to go up to level three. Um, going back to your question, how many hours? I think at the time, level one was at 100 hours. It's very easy. I mean, well, it depends also on your learning style and learning preferences, but
Yeah.
um, I'm a very bookish person. I read a lot of books. I like reading. And there are
Mm-hmm.
different schools that would offer different kinds of learning. So when I started with the school that I mentioned earlier, it was really very texty, but it worked well for me because I like reading.
Yeah.
I know there are other schools who are more like video and stuff, but now that school has changed their, I would say, presentation of the lectures and modules. It's now more visual, which is better for most people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think the key here is just find the school that has the teaching style that would best fit your own learning style.
So with the educators that are out there, there are a lot, man. I was looking on the websites, and it's like,
You included.
I'm not on any of those websites. You have to
You're an
really
educator,
know how to
I'm just saying.
find me. Yeah. You know, my whole thing is that I didn't focus on the aromatherapy industry. I focused on the beauty industry.
Mhm.
So the first chapter in my book is understanding holistic beauty and what beauty is.
Mhm.
That's actually the first chapter in any book on aromatherapy that I would write, because if you don't understand holistic and what it really means,
Mhm.
and if you don't understand people, and if you don't understand life, and if you don't understand, it's a philosophy that you walk in with. If you think you're going to be told what to do, it isn't going to work, which is my other thing that I when I say overkill, I think it's it's going to give some crazy percentage. I don't find it's all correct.
Mhm.
And so what I've found is through education, you get boxed into a lane. And so, this, I'm going to ask you if you agree with this, or is it just my
I'm
crazy
listening.
view of what I think is going on?
Mhm.
But as I hear people tell me, like I'm doing courses in, well, I've done them in China,
Mhm.
and now I'm teaching online in Russia, and the feedback I get is they're looking for me to tell them what to do.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
with essential oils, you don't tell somebody what to do. You create the guidelines, you give them the information, and then the person using the essential oils, they own them. So whatever they do with those oils is right.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
you talk to safety. We're going to talk safety again, but if you put oregano on somebody's skin without diluting it, you're wrong. So there is a little bit of wrong going on in this.
Mhm.
But for the most part, it really depends on your background, who you are, and what you
Mhm.
do,
I agree.
and the aromatherapy education, the way I taught. Because at Bastyr, I had a mix of everybody. You said you came in from corporate and marketing background. I had people with marketing backgrounds, no science background. I had accountants. I had just a whole mix of people. Was kind of crazy because then I did have the biophysicist and I had the MD and lots of NDs because it was a Bastyr, acupuncture, Ayurveda. And my theme for me is I'm showing you what these oils can do. I'm going to give you the depth of why they do what they do, and then you own them. They're yours.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
in the courses that you've taken, is it presented like these are the facts on essential oils, and this is what you need to learn? Is it taught to you that way?
Mhm. Okay, thank you for that. Well, as you know, I've amassed a lot of education with
You have some
aromatherapy.
certificates on your wall, yes.
Yes, and honestly, it's not even like the entirety of it. A lot of the courses I have taken, they don't even like provide any of those. So,
Mhm,
um, and what I'm saying is to your question, I would say each teacher would have their own style. And for a learner, it is your responsibility to seek the teacher that would really best supply whatever that fits your learning style. Just what I mentioned earlier. It's same with the school. Now, honestly, the reason why I found you is because I really liked your teaching style.
well, thank you.
I really I really observed you, and I like the way you were able to explain chemistry and other aromatherapy topics very, very, um, let's say, a 6-year-old way. It's very broken down into its simplest form. Therefore, people, lay learners, lay users can easily digest that information, which is very, very important for aromatherapy
Mhm,
because, especially, I know a lot of people, like, I've had students who are house like housewives, and then I
mhm,
have students who are attorneys, lawyers. I have students who are like, of course, people from the corporate as well. And like
mhm.
what you mentioned, these are from different, I guess, all walks of life, and also they come from different, I guess, learning background. Some
Yeah.
would be bookish, some would be more visual, some would learn through engagement, through experience. So all of those differences, as an educator, you have to take into consideration and maybe strike a balance. Those that don't fit your teaching style will eventually just bump off, like,
Mhm,
go to somewhere else.
mhm.
Um, my my style is when I like to learn about a certain topic, for example, animal aromatherapy. I like learning from different teachers.
Yeah.
And this is what I tell my students too. if you feel so strongly about a certain topic, let's say women's health, try to seek people who are experts in that field and learn from as much people. Then you would
Mhm.
have a better and a more holistic way of learning all of that information. You cannot be listening to just one person, you know? You have to
It's true.
um, listen to like two or three, the least, to learn, to have a better learning experience.
Yeah. So that's exactly where I think, it's, I even tell people sometimes that even when you hear something, you go on to Dr. Google or the
Mm-hmm,
influencers that think they know something,
mm-hmm,
even the bad information you can learn something from, I
mm-hmm,
find,
mm-hmm,
uh, because it's hard to explain that, isn't it? Because it's bad information. Why do you want to learn from them for? But it's aromatherapy and essential oils. Well, it's really specifically essential oils.
mm-hmm,
Essential oils are so elusive in
mm-hmm,
so many ways. I worked with NDs. We talked about this before. NDs. I do an IV and on
mm-hmm,
cancer. Right. I'm
mm-hmm,
not a doctor. I'm not. I should be nowhere near anyone with cancer. But this ND asked me what he should use and the whole deal.
mm-hmm,
And so I got to observe how essential oils work. And now, if you look in a book,
mm-hmm.
now they don't talk cancer in a book, so I should have used a
Yeah,
different example. Um, I can't think of one that's extreme because, I mean, MRSA, cancer, it was pretty extreme stuff.
I agree.
But anyway,
Oh, by the way, that podcast episode is coming out this Sunday
it is.
on Live Well at Aromatherapist Jirbie Go.
Is that the one? Is that the one we talked cancer and I talked about
Yes,
what I
it's
did? And
coming out this Sunday.
did I show you the MRSA picture in that? In that?
Yes, so people can
Oh,
see
you
too.
guys are in for a treat.
Yeah.
That is the prettiest picture ever.
Yeah,
Oh, anyway,
it's
yeah.
compelling. I love it.
Yeah. So what? Tell them the address again. Where?
Oh, Live Well with Aromatherapist Jirbie Go. Just search it on Spotify or just search my name, Jirbie Go on
Okay.
Spotify. It should
Is
come
it
out.
is it Couch Wasabi? Can you find it on there too?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. You can
Couch
search Couch
Wasabi,
Wasabi.
everybody. That's where to find everything Jirbie-ish. All right. Yeah. So what was I just going on? So anyway, what I'm saying here is that you can look at some really, really hardcore research, right? You go on the studies, and you also have, people use studies as an example. You need to know how to read studies. Now, do I have a background in that? No. But from doing it for the last 20 years, I've found the clues that I need to find that tell me where that study falls apart. One of the ways studies fall apart is they are closed, and so they try to make it where there's nothing that can influence
Mhm,
what they're trying to study. Right?
mhm,
It's impossible with essential oils.
mhm.
You'd have to
That's
block
true.
people's nose. You'd have to understand all the receptors. And most of the studies are done on animals and in a little petri dish.
Mhm,
That doesn't really work. You
mhm,
can get, and I find that uh, I think this term lacks a lot of anything evidence based.
mhm,
Evidence based means that it worked for you and you have evidence,
mhm,
or you have it worked for many people, many therapists, and there's evidence, even though it kind of goes along with the research and all the other studies.
mhm,
But this is that elusive part of essential oils. Just because it worked here and here and here and here doesn't mean it's going to work for that person and that
mhm.
person and that person
That's
and that
true.
person. And what I find lacking in a lot of essential oils, and I want you to tell me whether they are doing this, because like I said, I've never taken a course. I have no idea. But they treat things as if it were factual,
Mhm,
as if I tell you that peppermint is good for headaches, then that's the truth. And it's not. Peppermint never worked on a headache for me because I don't
mhm,
have a peppermint headache.
mhm,
So my deal in what I say to work that is that you're not working on the symptom, you're working on the person with the symptom. And I also say that when I did this in a class, right? So people are paying me
mhm.
$500 to hang out with me, right? And someone, I can't remember what the symptom was, but somebody said, well, what would I use for this symptom? And I said, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Thank you for your $500. I just told you something that doesn't matter. But that is the truthful answer, because I can work on somebody with any oil I have, with any symptom that they have. There's techniques, and intention is one of those techniques.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
so that I have two questions in there.
mhm.
Do these courses, do they tell you that they're not accurate? This is only guidelines.
Mhm.
And do they tell you that other thing, that, what did I just say? The other one. Anyway, that's what I really want to know. Do they
Okay.
tell you that this is only as accurate as what I have on paper? Because the truth is, what's it going to do when I actually use it on a person?
Mhm. Okay. So with your, for example, you have decided to formally take your aromatherapy education from a school, take your level one. The level one would normally encompass you to have to learn a certain set of oils. I would say like 25, maybe 20 to 30
I think it's
um
again,
oils.
I did none of them in my courses. So
Yeah. But that's okay too, because then
uh-huh.
you would be categorized as under short courses or CE providers. That's another set of like
Hmm.
educators too. So as I said earlier, like depending on how deep you want to go, if you decide to go with level 1, at level 1 you would have to learn about chemistry, about anatomy, about physiology, about like a number of oils. I would say it's about 20 to 30. I'm not sure. With our Filipino school, we set it at 30 because we made sure to include a lot of the native Filipino oils, and that's like addition to the basic level
Good.
one of the US. And then you also have to learn like a certain number of botanicals like carrier oils and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
there's a minimum standard of information that you have to learn at that level. And you were asking like, oh, is it are
Do
the
they tell
students
you that? Do they
informed?
tell you that it's not accurate when they give you the guidelines?
So, because essential oils are harnessed from nature, these are
Hmm.
not drugs. There are a lot of variables
Right.
going in, right? A batch of LME oil can never be the exact same as the second batch because so
Hmm.
many factors are affecting it: the weather, the soil condition, um, even the harvesting can affect it. The time you distill it can affect it. So, there are so many variables about essential oils that it's really hard to really box them into like a one is to one apple to apple
Right.
comparison. But generally, that is why we try to learn about the chemistry. That is why we try to keep a record of all of the empirical evidences. Um, the way I feel that aromatherapy and essential oil education uses evidence base is not the same as maybe the way people would use it in I would say MD setting or
Hmm. Yeah.
a scientist setting. Um, and I guess that's one of the challenges because again, like you said,
Big time.
I've never, like you said, you've never felt that peppermint helped your headache because
Hmm.
you've never had a peppermint headache. That is true, and that is why we have a like what 400 plus options for essential oils, right? You can grab a basil or clary sage
Hmm.
and see if it works for you. You also have to take into consideration our personal preference and our own like body chemistry, how it reacts to these oils. So I see that as the beauty of aromatherapy. And this is
Yes.
what I tell my
Yeah.
students honestly. I've never really believed in competition. um I see that in some people in the aromatherapy community.
Yeah.
But
True that.
but I've never felt that.
Uh-huh.
And I always tell that to my students because my point is you and I can come from the same school, study the same course, but because of who I am and my interests are,
Yep.
the things about that course that I would absorb more will be different from what person A or person B would absorb. And the way I would relay the information, because how some things would resonate with me more, would be different. So each of us would have our own space in this community. There's no competition. Each of us can put something on the table that the
True.
others can't.
That's right. I always say this about everything. There's plenty of room for everybody.
Hmm.
We don't need to be competitive. It's like, and we learn from each other too. So, which is important. So there's a couple of questions I had in there. First, I just want to explain when I said I don't do any of those oils, right? So
Mhm,
you have to do this, right? According to the
mhm,
qualifications of these associations. And what I did was, and what I would tell you, I said, open up a book. You want to know about Roman chamomile? How many thousands of people have written about Roman chamomile? Do you need to spend $500 on me to tell you about Roman chamomile? Absolutely not. So what I did I did have, I have them in my book. I mean, I think most of the ones that they require, but not Roman chamomile. You need to use Cape chamomile. Much, much, much nicer. It's such a beautiful one.
We don't have that in my country. Next time.
I needed to give you some. How can I get some? When are you leaving? When are you leaving?
Next week, Tuesday.
I could send it to you. You'd have it. How could I have not thought about that? Anyway, you guys don't need to know about our thing about Cape chamomile, but yes, Cape chamomile. You need to have Cape chamomile. Anyway, so what I did, and this is what I thought was important in my way of teaching, is the students got a class kit.
Yes.
And in that kit were the most unfamiliar oils I could possibly think of. Or not even so much unfamiliar, but spearmint. Not too many people put spearmint in a course to learn about an oil, right? I had, what else I've had? Kunzia.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, I had Catrify in there. I had
I don't
Elmi.
like that.
You don't like Catrify?
No.
Oh.
Too heavy.
Really?
Yeah. But I have it, but not my.
I think you may need a
eyes.
different distillation of it. It's not too heavy really much at all. But it's very dry.
Earthy.
It's kind of dry and not pretty, but it blends well. See, that's the whole thing. It's like, don't do it. I also have a rule. This was my rule, that every school should do this right from the start. You are not allowed to like or dislike any oils that are passed around in the class. Do you know why?
Why?
I can tell you, because it's my rule. And I have no rules, right? I don't follow rules. I don't make rules. But this is the rule. And the reason is, and we're going to talk about the olfactory system now, because this is a key piece of how we should be educated. We all have a memory association or emotional association with scents, right? And so even if we're not familiar with that specific scent, we are going to judge it according to our emotional memory.
Yes.
And so what we're doing is we're dismissing what I want to teach you, which is I want you to feel this, see where it goes. And you can't really, you're going to like or dislike whether I tell you to or not, because that's the power of your protective mechanism of the olfactory system. That's why it's there. And it's very important that that's there. So what I'm teaching is that acknowledge that you are going to have a like or dislike, but just ignore it. So it's not so much don't like or dislike. It's like, let's ignore that part because I want you to feel it. I want you to see where it goes, how it hits you in the nose, all these things, how we would describe it. And each class that I have, the first class is the overview. And then the second course is chemistry. Third is the properties of oils. And then fourth, I can't remember, we had 7 modules. So, olfactory was one of them. Skincare was one of them. Consultation, doing your intake and soap or whatever you want to call it. That's all part of it. And, so at the end of each class, you had a homework assignment. And what you were doing, you were using that very same kit of oils, working from the perspective of whatever that course was. So the first one was just exploring. The second one with chemistry, I had to make structure effect diagrams out of it, which is what the book that I gave you is all about, how to make a structure effect diagram. And then the third one, properties. So digging into what are the properties, sort of ignoring the chemistry, ignoring everything except what do people say this what does, from research and books and everything else. And so my whole deal about how to experience is having that group of unfamiliar oils and diving into them in these different sections so that what you're learning is the experience, not the academic part of it. That's what I like to do.
And you're free to do that. right?
Yeah. No, I'm not free to do that. It costs $500 to hang out with me for a weekend.
You're free to do that. Um, yeah, so yes, in my school, well, at least for me, my teaching style, it's a little different from yours. I honor them if they say they don't like it. I actually encourage them to say how they feel, whether they like or dislike it. I agree with you that yes, there is, of course, there's scent memory association,
Mhm.
and that is why in my class, there's no inhibition. Like you're free to say whatever. You're free to tell me if you don't like it,
Yes.
if you think it stinks or whatever. Like, oh, in my class, normally I love ilang ilang. It's like one of my favorite oils. Um because the Philippines is a Catholic country. So most Filipinos would go to church on a Sunday. And ilang ilang, as we know it, as Filipinos know it, we grew up with it as something we see in churches. It's part
Oh,
of this floral garland where they string it
that's
with
cool.
jasmine, and then at the middle there'd be ilang ilang there, and then they offer those to the Catholics, those statues. Um, and whenever I'd have a class and I'd ask people, like, how do you find this? Blah, blah, blah. Half of it, like 50%, would tell me they love it. But the other half, they'd be like, oh my God, we hate it. We don't like it. And when I ask why, because they say it reminds me of the church. Oh, which is wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But when I bring that same bottle here in the States, people love it. I mean, you guys find it, oh, wow, it's beautiful, it's exotic, blah, blah,
Well, not
blah.
everybody.
Oh,
I
cool.
I actually have found people that don't like jasmine or ylang ylang,
Hmm.
and the reason I mentioned both of those, it's that kind of exotic, sweeter,
Hmm.
kind of blissful,
Uh-huh.
euphoric floral
Uh-huh.
that for some reason people resist. So this gets into the next thing that I want to talk about. So in a course,
Mhm.
and we're talking lavender. What's the most popular property of lavender?
Linalool?
Well, no. What would it do? Like if somebody,
Relaxing,
yeah.
calming.
Okay. Now, I think we've had this discussion too. Um, do you teach people, like if I give you lavender,
Mhm.
it's a stimulant?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so how do you teach that piece of it? And then just kind of give me a quick answer because I want to get into olfactory here.
Mhm. Well, yeah. Part of the course would be you'd have these set of oils and then their therapeutic properties. And then yeah, so these are just, I would say, textbook ready definitions of each of the oil. But again, these oils, you have to remember this, like these oils would react to different people differently. So for lavender, like what you mentioned, and I've experienced that, like there was one time I was dealing with a kid within the spectrum. Guess what? Lavender doesn't really calm them down. It makes them more active. So it's a stimulant for,
Hmm.
especially for kids with ADHD and neurodivergent kids. So yes, these are the things that as educators and practitioners would have to be aware of, and that is why we need formal education. Because when you do a simple Google search, what is lavender good for? You'd probably get like, oh, it's good for sleep, it's good to relax you. But guess what? If you have a child who has ADHD and give it to him, he'd most likely be more hyper with that. So,
Well,
yes.
here's from my olfactory research, which I dove into over the last bunch of years because it's fascinating and incredible. And it's like everything I like about essential oils, it's weird. It's just completely weird. There's no, I like things that are nonlinear.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is kind of my education style as well,
Mm-hmm.
even though I can't be because people like linear, especially
It's a
Asia
matter of you
and
finding your
Russia.
audience.
Well, I mean, people do fine with me. People who expect linear like my course.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't
Mm-hmm.
lose anyone from what I'm saying. It still
Mm-hmm.
works. But here's the thing is that when it comes to the olfactory system, you can your memory and emotion changes what's going on. So it's not even about the chemistry of the oil. It's not about any of the properties or anything like that. If I tell you that this oil is going to stimulate you and make you giggle, there's a really good chance it'll make you giggle. Now, it could, it'll probably most likely stimulate, if that's what I said. Giggling is a little more challenging, but I bet I could do it. And
Mhm.
it's all about what they call olfactory verbal cues.
Mhm.
So when we're teaching courses, we're actually telling people how they're going to feel. We're
Mhm.
actually creating the response. And in a way, you could do it with anything, right? And this is where I don't want to talk much about this, but I'm going to mention it. When we say that synthetics and adulterated oils don't work, yes, they do.
Mhm.
Essentially,
We've talked about this,
yeah,
yes.
and they work just as well as the essential oils when it comes to intention
Mhm.
and olfactory verbal cues. And this is actually research. Sandalore, the
Mhm.
synthetic sandalwood compound, actually heals wounds because it binds with the olfactory receptor of the skin and triggers
Mhm.
that response where it'll heal a wound. So that means that synthetics are therapeutic grade. We don't like to say that,
Mhm.
but synthetics are therapeutic grade if it works.
Yeah,
And
but
if it
remember, sorry to cut you, Jim, but
yes.
yes, we've talked about it, and yes, I totally agree. Um, and this can be like, I guess, refreshing for some people, right? But yes, there will be schools in this regard. There will be schools who will be so conservative, who will be so on this side.
Mm-hmm.
But with me, I guess, and my school, we acknowledge that. Like I've spoken with some aromatherapists who are also psychologists. They've told me like for people who are like really old and withering away, sometimes it's a bottle of perfume that brings
Yes.
them back to their memories. People with dementia, and this is like a regular store bought perfume bottle. It's not even your aromatherapy perfume. Like let's say a CK1 or let's say I don't know, your typical perfume. So yes, synthetics, because it also evokes memory,
Yeah.
can do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we in my
And
school
it's
we
not
don't really
therapeutic.
shun it. Mhm.
It's not the therapeutic properties. It's not the chemistry. It's the emotion memory. It's
Mhm.
the
Yes.
olfactory system.
Mhm.
And I think that has to be so ingrained in any education, almost like it's the first thing you learn, that
Mhm.
your olfactory system is going to have a major impact on what's going to happen with the oils.
Mhm.
Now, everything else, I mean, you get it's this is why I created two different systems. One of them is my 7-tier system.
Mhm.
And biophilia matters. It's that this comes from nature and nature is healing. And if you resonate with that aspect of nature, like when you're talking about dementia and things like that, what I look at is where did this person grow up? Where were they happy? What was going on? If you can match some of the odors, you're likely to tap in to triggering that memory and that association with, you know, getting the person to memory stimulation in a way. So
Mhm.
there's so many layers to how an oil is going to work. And I think that because of that, and these are all things I've developed because of my viewpoint of how essential oils are taught.
Mhm.
And even the multi-level guys, they aren't involved in the associations because they're all, at war with each other. But I think that there's a certain, well, not even a certain, there's high limitations in multi-level education because it's what I call marketing education. You're
Mhm.
being taught so that you can sell oils.
Mhm.
And it's a different way of doing it. And I have no issue with the multi-level people. I
Mhm.
think they're really good because they're out there doing the craziest things that we would never do, but we get to see just how dangerous our oils are, or from my perspective, how dangerous they are not. you know
Mhm.
I think that dive into essential oils. You don't need to know anything. When you burn your lip because you put thyme thymol type on it, you're not going to do it again, but your lip's going to heal. You're going to be fine. you know
Mhm.
so I think that the contraindications and the safety issues are way overblown. And in some ways I think that well, if I want to criticize the whole education system, I think it guards them where you have to be educated to do these oils.
Mhm.
And again, that limits what you can do with essential oils. If you do something stupid, it generally won't kill you or hurt you too much, and
Mhm.
you won't do it again. or you hope
That's
that
true.
you won't do it again. But I mean, some of the multi-level stuff. I told you about the mother who gave her kid oregano to put it on dad's feet and then
Yeah.
touched his eyeballs. I mean, that's just insane. And even with menthol that kills children, um,
Hmm.
and but I don't hear. I don't think there's. Maybe there's one. I can't. I've tried to do the research, but there has not been a death due to peppermint oil. There have been to like the Vapo Rub stuff that's loaded
Yes.
with menthol,
Hmm.
and you know,
Yes.
grandma, mama, somebody goes, "Oh, the
I
baby's
grew
so
up with
good."
that.
Yeah, are you dead?
I'm
you
here,
know,
but well, it happened. There were reports about it, so I guess that's why they have Vicks for babies now, the pink
yeah,
label. Yeah,
yeah. And it's just it shouldn't be over. It shouldn't be available for everyone to use if it was that dangerous. There's a lot of dangerous stuff out there. We know
that's
that,
true.
and essential oils definitely are not one of them. And so with the education, that gets back to the olfactory thing. I think that without learning how what the effect is of the olfactory system is, it's hard to take the other lessons for what they're trying to teach, because the olfactory system can change what happens with all the chemistry, with everything. And I'm hardcore chemistry when it comes to
Hmm.
aromatherapy,
I
and I
can see
didn't
that.
and I didn't mean to do that.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
I'm not a chemist by trade. I had to learn it for beauty industry. I had to learn chemistry, but that's kind of basic, you know, all the different acids and stuff like that we use, right? And but it's not essential oil chemistry. And so I learned chemistry backwards. I had to go back to basic chemistry, anatomy, physiology, all of this stuff. I can't repeat most of it. So when
Hmm.
I see you have to study anatomy and physiology, I go, for what? What are you gonna get from that? It's just
Hmm.
it's That's not aromatherapy. It's not essential oils,
Hmm.
because these are not drugs. The most of the anatomy you really need to learn is the surface receptors on the skin,
Hmm.
and I don't think there's enough education in that area.
Hmm.
Those receptors on the skin. So yeah, I think that the structure and I mean, what we're doing here is we're kind of giving people different viewpoints. You actually,
Yeah.
Jirbie, you actually the way you work is perfect in the way that I see education and what
Thank
you've
you.
expressed, right? Which is
Hmm.
why I talk to you. I mean, if there's a lot of people I wouldn't want to talk to, because I think they get too much in their head and think that what they have is the right thing to do, which is also partly why I bonded with Kurt, because Kurt does not take a lot of this education as
Hmm.
solid, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so chemistry. I think the more you know about the chemistry, the more you can adjust to all these other things that I'm talking about.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the chemistry falls apart once you try to take it from lab to what's chemistry, and then to practice.
Hmm.
So these
Yeah.
layers that I've created, I think, are really important to understand, because your intention matters,
Hmm. Yes, I agree.
um, and intuition also matters, which is a cool way to blend. Oh, what I read in one of these things? 3 ways of blending. You have to know 3 different techniques. What does that mean? I didn't
Not
understand that.
where did you read that? We don't do that in AIA. I'm sorry.
That's, I think, where I saw it though. It talked
Well,
about, you need to know three techniques for blending or something like that.
I see. Oh, well,
Yeah,
there are different kinds of blending. Like some people would blend
like
according
unlimited.
to the notes, maybe
Yeah,
according to the plant part, I don't know, intuitively, or yeah, there are many things, but my
yeah.
take on that is do as you wish, wherever you're comfortable. Now, this can be very tricky, especially if you're a beginner. And I would understand why these guidelines are there is basically to help beginners. But then again,
Mhm.
me coming into my level one, I've done a lot of classes at that point. I've held my own workshops at that point. So, like, I know something, and therefore I tend to like go with however I want, much like you do, right?
Mhm.
When we talked about it.
Yeah.
So, I these blending methods. would certainly help you if you know absolutely nothing. If you are a beginner, that would be
Yep.
helpful because it gives them a guide. But these are not like set in stone um, rules that you have to follow all the time.
Yeah, and everybody has their different style. Throughout
Yes.
the years, I've heard these things where people have asked me in my classes, they say, "Well, I've heard that, you have to blend these oils in this order."
Huh.
I'm
Okay.
going,
All right.
if if you want to,
Yeah. Okay.
if that makes you happy, you know. I mean, blending is an art,
Yes.
and the whole thing, and the whole aromatherapy thing is an art.
Hmm.
And the more information you have, the better you're going to be at it.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Aromatherapy is a mix of art and science, right?
Yes,
Yes. It's a
absolutely.
beautiful mix of it. Yes.
Yeah, it's like any art. You if you learn the chemistry and the science of color and paint, and
Mm-hmm.
with their textures and different paints, oil paint or acrylics or whatever, you learn the science behind that. If you want to call it science. But once you're doing your artwork, it's yours. That's why I say these things are yours.
Mm-hmm.
And so aromatherapy education for me is about giving you guidelines. I can't tell
Mm-hmm.
you what's right or what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you a fair amount of what's wrong, but even the contraindications, they are not accurate.
Mm-hmm.
You read about some horrible thing happening with the big one would be the ketone, all right, thujone.
Mm-hmm.
And so thujone gets through the blood-brain barrier and affects the central nervous system, and it can shut off everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you sure do have to drink a lot to get that far.
Mm-hmm.
And so these contraindications need to be understood better. There's actually, I've read, I can't remember if it was Tisserand or somebody, but a lot of what they say about the ketones is not quite as you know what would be the word for this, scary, I guess, as what they teach.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're sitting there, and this is outside of typical aromatherapy. I know some people who bottle, because they it's a company that sells oils, and
Mm-hmm.
there was a guy bottling thuja all day long, and he got really dizzy by the end of the day. I can understand that, so
Mm-hmm.
don't bottle thuja in a area where you're going to be smelling it without
Mm-hmm.
any kind of draft or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to some really basic understanding
Yeah.
of what makes sense and what doesn't make sense.
And like the most famous contraindication, like eugenol, it can interfere with your blood clotting medicines or blood thinners, affects blood thinning.
Yeah, I'm kind of weird about all that stuff because when people ask me, they're on this drug or that drug, I go, I don't know. I don't do drugs. you know,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to look that one up yourself because I found it even some of that information isn't accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard the eugenol and the blood thinners. I thought it was what compound was it that there's another one with blood thinners you're not supposed to do. Now I can't remember. See, I don't even know what the contraindications are. I'm going to kill more people with essential oils than anyone I've ever known.
That's why education is important.
I know. I need to go take a class so that, so that I know what I'm doing. I really do. Well, this has been cool. There's a lot of stuff I'd like to talk to you about with education, but it's good. See, again, Jirbie, you were the perfect person to co-host with me on this one because you've done the courses. You know it's where the value is, and you can see it where I'm looking at it from how I learned. And
Mhm,
not everyone can
mhm.
learn the way I learned. I mean,
Yes,
everyone
I
is a
agree.
different person. So,
Uh-huh.
when it comes to do you need essential oil education just to use essential oils? No, you can just
No,
use them, right?
I started with not having any
Yeah,
education. Yeah.
but the more if you want to be better at it,
Yes.
the more you learn, the better you're going to be. And the more you learn, also you find out the less you know. Like all that stuff you've been learning, it's like, wait a minute, that's not consistent. It's not, if this is true, then this piece can't be true, but it's
Mm-hmm.
all true. It's all
Well,
very elusive.
in my experience, because I've done a lot of learning, I've done a lot of reading. Like even before deciding to take my first level one course, I've read a lot of books.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a fast book reader. I have a lot of books that my students would call me the library because I have
Mhm.
so many aromatherapy books, and I could like easily tell you what the authors that I like, the teachers that I like, the
Mhm.
teachers that I don't like. So I take
Yeah.
note of all of that as well, because again, we all have different learning styles, and
Yep.
it's just a matter of how deep you want to go into it, and which one or who will fit your learning style.
Yep. That's the way to make it work. Okay, so I think we're hitting an hour. So
Mhm.
love talking with you, Jirbie. It's always a
Thank
pleasure.
you, Jim. See you
And
again next time, and have
yeah,
a
here, let
good
me tell it.
Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, that. But here, this is how to find Jirbie, Couch Wasabi. This would be me if you want to find me, jimharrison.com, supported Jim Harrison. Go ahead and like, subscribe. Let me see. If you're on YouTube, you subscribe and like, and then there's some little bell you can hit, and it'll ding-a-ling every time I do one of these things and let you know what's happening. And here on LinkedIn, also, there's a like. There's no subscribe, but follow me.
You can repost.
Repost. There you go.
Yes.
Now we're talking. Now we're on the right page. Yeah.
And follow me, Jirbie Go. Just search for that.
Yes. Okay. Till next time. I want to
Till
keep
next
doing
time.
this with you, Jirbie.
Me too.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. You're going to do Thanksgiving? You having it here in the
Oh no,
US?
I'm heading home.
Oh, so you're
I miss
leaving
my
this
cats.
coming up Tuesday.
Yes.
Ah, before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
You don't miss much. Actually, it's kind of cool. I
I
don't
was
know.
told.
Yeah.
I was told.
It's okay. It's just usually a lot of food and I don't know.
And closed
Yes.
shops.
Happy Thanksgiving. And everyone out there, yeah, do be good. Have fun. And we will be talking soon. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.